Hi everyone, welcome back to InsightRx. Today we have Ranjani, a rising sophomore at Brown University studying neuroscience. She's also a program in liberal medical education, Brown's combined 8-year undergrad and medical school program. Thanks to Brown and their open curriculum, she's been able to explore courses in anthropology, classics, and South Asian studies alongside her concentration in neuroscience. She loves writing and is part of Fiction for Kids, a student-led group that creates stories for children in hospitals and foster care homes. Outside of academics, she enjoys dancing and playing volleyball, and she's on Brown University's Women's Club volleyball team. Say hi!
It's nice to meet you.
So starting off, we'll be talking about your high school pathway. Firstly, what high school are you from? And in high school, what are some examples of classes you took that left a lasting impact on you and defined or changed your view on your future or career path?
I went to Green Level High School, and many of the classes I took were just, your classic core classes. I did take AP Biology, AP Chemistry, and AP Physics 1. So I think that those two classes are definitely necessary if you want to apply to any BSMD programs, which is what I was looking at. Um, I did also take Python 1, which was an academic course, and although that wasn't really related to my area of study, I think that it's important to have diverse classes in your workload. I also took Spanish, so up until Spanish 3. So I think it's important to not just focus on your basic science classes, but also focus on other classes that will give you diverse skills and also so you have things to write about in your college essays.
During high school, you had a lot of high and AP classes. So, how did you handle stress with your classes and with college in mind?
I think that it was definitely very difficult first semester of senior year because that's when you're doing the majority of your college applications. And for BSMD programs, most of the deadlines are around October. So you have to focus on balancing your classes along with your coursework. And you also can't let your grades slip because the first semester of fall is your last courses that are going to be included on your transcript. And you're most likely going to be taking the hardest course load of your 4 years. So you want to focus equally on grades as well. I think that the best thing to do, or like the best strategy, would be to take a look at, the Common App application prompts during the summer before, so you can do the bulk of your writing and all of the hard work and the heavy lifting before classes actually start. Because once classes start, you're going to have to focus the majority of your time on classwork, tests, quizzes, and things like that. So that's what I would recommend.
One common question that like every high schooler has in mind right now is how do you study for the ACT, SAT, and like any of the high level AP classes like AP Physics?
For the SAT and ACT, it's just like any other skill. You can master it just like you would like playing sports, or I know, Devonshire, you love to dance. So if you want to get really good or if you want to learn a choreography, what you usually do, I'm guessing, is you practice every single day until you have it down. And even though it's hard to remember or it's muscle memory is kind of hard in the beginning, it eventually becomes almost like secondhand, like natural. So I think it's the same thing with ACT and SAT. You just have to get the prep books and really practice every single day and focus on doing it in time. That's the best way you can like succeed in standardized testing, I think. Because I think more than you're intelligent, it just tests like how familiar you are with the test. Also, in terms of AP classes, I think the best thing to do is just try really hard in class, pay attention, and try to like learn from what the teacher is saying. But then once you go home, to mainly focus on reviewing notes and stuff. I think that's going to help you a lot more because if you can like maximize the time that you spend trying to learn in class when the teacher is actually teaching it, that's the most efficient way of learning it instead of going home and trying to catch up on stuff that you are behind on. And also, I think one thing to do is to review like constantly, even though it can be kind of hard. If you review, like if you do spaced repetition, it's going to be a lot easier for you to do well, like when AP exams come around. because sometimes you'll have classes in fall and then the AP exams will be in May. Obviously, you'll have a semester a break. So if you have any like free time during like any of your holidays and stuff, I know it sounds kind of depressing, but you just have to squeeze it in whenever you get the chance and hope that you do well. But I think that if you work hard on anything, you'll be fine. Like, I'm pretty sure that like coursework can get really difficult, but it's not going to be unattainable for you guys. So I have full
Yeah,
confidence.
it's like very inspiring coming from
Yeah.
someone who got a perfect score on the ACT.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think another big question for high schools right now is like all about NCSSM. So, with both NCSSM and college applications in mind, what is one big strategy for EC that you were a part of that severely helped your application stand out, in your opinion?
For NCSSM online specifically, I actually hadn't really done much by the time the application came around because I was just a sophomore. It was COVID for the first 2 years. I played JV volleyball, obviously, even though I didn't go to school in person. So that was something I talked about in, I think, one of my questions, because one of the more creative questions, because I actually started playing volleyball after watching a sports anime. So I think that made for a creative little story and also like a quirky thing to write about. I also talked about Future Women in Medicine Club, which was my main like extracurricular or STEM related involvement. Although it was more like a service club, I think talking about the guest speakers that we had, all the things that we learned, all the service activities that we were able to do, and how it like brought girls in my school community together was one of the major things that I talked about in my NCSSM essays. Outside of those two, I didn't really have any accomplishments. I know a lot of you guys were involved in like science fair and stuff like that from middle school. So you could write about, on the application, you can write about things from seventh grade all the way to 10th grade. So I would encourage people that are planning to do that. But outside of these two main experiences, I hadn't really done much at all by sophomore year. So I'm probably not the best example. And also, I only applied to the online program. I didn't apply to residential because I wanted to still stay at my home high school. I had a lot of teachers that I really liked. Obviously, I had clubs that I was involved in. I was in the volleyball program, and also I obviously just wanted to like spend more time with my family before going to college. So I decided to only apply to the online program so I could stay at my home high school because I really like I love the green level a lot. But I think that people that are applying to residential generally have to have higher stats, more like obvious STEM involvement and stuff at the time that they apply. So I would like make sure that you talk to other people that are residential about that.
How did you go about writing all your applications, either for NCSSM or BSMD? Because I know you have to apply for that in senior year. So how did you like write about it?
For BSMD applications, I think that you write, there's like a very standard set of essay questions they'll ask you. So they'll ask you why medicine, and once you write that, you can kind of copy and paste it into all the applications. After why medicine, they'll probably ask you like why this BSMD, why this undergrad, or why this medical school. You have to do a little bit more research about that because you really have to like dig into what each school stands for. Some schools want to see candidates with a lot of service. Some schools want to see people that are really into research and want to even do like MD, PhD at some point. Some schools want to see people that are very focused on social justice and things like that. So you really have to kind of, even if you haven't done, because it's kind of impossible for someone to be super accomplished in like both service and research and social justice and advocacy. It's like most people have like a spike in one area, but they still apply to all of these BSMD programs. It's not like you should avoid the ones that don't resonate with you as much. You can still apply to all of them as long as you kind of highlight your story in a way that aligns with what the program is looking for. Because even if you did a lot of service and if you only had one research experience, you can still write about your service experience in a way that aligns with, innovation or something like that if you're applying to like a research-based school. So adapting that essay about like why this medical school or why this program is probably going to be the most time consuming aspect of applying to BSMD programs because you're going to have to change the essay for every single school you apply to. And you're going to have to research that school and like all the clubs they have, all the student organizations they have, all the opportunities they have, all the courses they offer. And you're going to have to like highlight all the medical school clubs and stuff and highlight, oh, I was involved in this in high school. So that translates to me being involved in this club at the med school or this initiative. So you really have to do your research on that. But once you do the research, writing it actually becomes really easy. And then there'll be like, the odd questions like what brings you joy? What do you do in your free time? Tell me about yourself, which are always the fun ones to write about. But for those, you just have to like really reflect on yourself and your community and your family and like really brainstorm. Like I would suggest brainstorming at the dinner table with your parents because sometimes they remember more details about your life than you remember yourself. And then you come up with the idea and then you kind of tease it out and then you write the essay for those questions. So that's kind of like the process on how I went about like writing all the different types of questions for BSMD programs and stuff. And also like all the undergrad like essays pretty much fall along the same thing. There's no why medicine essay, there's just like a Common App. You can choose to write the Common App about medicine. You don't have to write it about medicine. You can write about something else if you want. And then there's like always supplemental essays and there's also like scholarship essays and honors college essays and stuff. But once you like at some point you'll have written all of these possible answers and you'll have them all like I would suggest keeping it organized, like put them all in like a Google Drive or folder so you can be organized. And every time you see a question, you'll be able to identify like, oh, like I'll probably use essay A for this question and I'll use essay B for this question. At some point you can like do applications in like 20 to 30 minutes because you literally have everything written already and you just have to kind of like mix and match where it goes. So it's like kind of like a process. Like the time gets exponentially less difficult as you go throughout the course because in the beginning you'll have a lot of like things to do from scratch, but towards the end, like January, like you'll probably it'll be a breeze at that point because you'll just be like using essays you already wrote. But yeah.
Okay, now for like anyone listening, what's like a quick summary about what BSMD is?
Oh, oops, I probably should have explained this first, but I think that BSMDs are basically there's like a lot of different types, but essentially it's like a combined medical degree program. It's where you get acceptance, some kind of acceptance to a medical school and an undergraduate institution at the same time. And there's like varying like conditions for your matriculation into medical school after you finish your undergrad. There's also like different like time courses for completing the program. Some programs are 6 years, some can be like 7 or 8, depending on how fast you finish undergrad. Some are strictly 8 years. So it varies from program to program. But there's also like different requirements. Like for some programs, you have to maintain a GPA and you have to get a minimum score on the MCAT. Some programs, you just have to have a GPA. You don't have to take the MCAT. They waive the MCAT for you, which is really good. And in some programs, it's like it's like a pathway program. So you do a GPA, you have to do a certain number of service hours, you have to do volunteer hours, you have to do a certain like number of research experiences, and you have to take the MCAT. And then at the end, they only give you a guaranteed interview to the medical school and not like a spot to the medical school. But if you do all of these things and you do well in the interview, then you get into the medical school. So there's like different levels of BSMD programs and like different tiers. So you definitely have to research all of that stuff and make sure you're only applying to the ones where you'd be okay with fulfilling all the requirements. It's like basically a provisional acceptance into medical school. You're getting access to both of this as an undergrad, so it's not like the traditional pre-med path. It's a little different because you're kind of like locking yourself in to a path.
So now switch gears into college life. So how has college life been at Brown? How is it different from high school regarding your career and your classes? And walk us through a regular day of PLME at Brown.
Yeah, so as a PLME student, I am in the combined medical degree program. So that means I'll go to Alfred Med School after my 4 years at Brown. But on a day-to-day, currently as an undergrad student, I'm no different from any other student at Brown. So I have the same schedules as all the other undergraduate students. I don't have like any specialized classes or anything. I take the classes that are required for my major. In Brown, we call major concentrations. So I'm concentrating in neuroscience. But there's also the open curriculum. So we don't have general education requirements. That means we'll take the classes we need for our concentration. So I've taken like neurobiology, and then I'm taking systems of neuroscience next semester. But also we have, with the remaining classes, we can take classes in whatever department we want. So I've taken classes in South Asian Studies and Classics. So I took a class on the Bhagavad Gita. I also took a class, a Bollywood film analysis class, which was called Interpreting Literature in Stone, Paper, and Film. And we watched like Bollywood reimaginings of like Romeo and Juliet and other stories and compared them against their Western stories, which was super fun. And I also got to take anthropology classes. So I took a class called Suffering and Compassion, which was a seminar class. That was super fun too. So I feel like these opportunities come from the open curriculum, which is not technically the case at other schools, but I'm super grateful for it. It's been a lot of fun taking classes in areas outside of STEM. Once every month for during my freshman year, we had this thing called the Whole Patient Dinner, which basically is when it's only for the PLME. We all have to dress really nice, and then we go to listen to a guest speaker who's a physician. But the physician usually talks only for the first part of it, and they bring their patient along with them. And so we get to listen to what the patient says for the majority of the time, and like patient's view on the care that they received and the physician-patient relationship. So I think that's like a unique aspect of being in the PLME, and also like a really cool event to go to and to like network and just to learn more about medicine in general. But outside of that, like usually I just go to my classes. There's a lot of flexibility. I hang out with friends like any other undergrad student. I also, in first semester, I was in Brown Abhinaya, which is the Indian classical dance team. And because I do Bharatanatyam, so that was super fun for first semester. Next year, I'll be on Brown University's women's club volleyball team. So I'm really excited for that because I haven't played volleyball since 11th grade, and I'm excited to get back on the court. So outside of all of the academics, like I still have like there's still time for fun and hobbies and just to be involved in student organizations. There's a lot of cultural organizations at Brown too. So it's like a very diverse group because there's people from all over the US. There's also international students. So no matter what you're interested in, you'll find your crowd, you'll find your people.
Kind of shift gears again into goals and your plans for the future. So, in the future, what do you hope to achieve, and what are some goals that you have for yourself academically or personally?
I think looking ahead to the future, especially next year, I hope to have more balance when it comes to being in college, because obviously it can be a little bit difficult when to transition when you're going initially. You have to learn how to like do things like time management. There's also, it's really easy to overcommit yourself, and there's a lot of like stimulation. There's always one event or another, always something going on. So you might feel the need to say yes to everything, but sometimes you just have to take a step back and look at your calendar and only say yes to the things that you have time for.
Mhm. So, on an ending note, what are some final tips that you would give to our listeners today?
Um, I would say not to compare yourself to anyone and to be kind to yourself in high school, because I know it sometimes feels like the end of the world if you don't get into a certain school. Or for you guys, I think you guys are rising sophomores. So you guys are currently sophomores. I think you guys, it seems like you guys, the main thing for you guys is like, oh, I need to get into NCSSM. Um, I remember in 10th grade and there was such a big hype. But I also just want to say that um like no matter what happens at this point, it might feel like at this point it's NCSM. Next year it might be like this leadership or like this club or this extracurricular, this research, it's not like one thing is never going to be the end of the world. But the thing is, like, as long as you're like sincere and as long as you are true to yourself, I think everything will work out. Just like put your 100% into everything, all the opportunities that you do get, and don't sweat about the opportunities that you don't get, because eventually like everything will work out for the best. So I would just like ultimately say to be kind to yourself. So I'm telling that to you guys. Everything always happens for a reason, and you will end up where you belong.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us have you on our podcast. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for agreeing to record with us.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I hope you guys, for all of the people out there that are applying to BSMD programs this cycle, or just want to go into medicine, even if you're applying pre-med, good luck. You got this.